Hello, we're Generation Zero Carbon Shropshire, and we're a collective of young Shropshire-based people working to encourage everyone in our county to help achieve the necessary conditions to reduce emissions to net zero by 2030.
Why? Well, because we're concerned about events like these and the impact they're having on the world we live in.
Over 300 million tonnes of plastic are produced each year, and this is set to double by 2034. 50% of this is single-use plastic, and only 9% of it is ever recycled. The UK uses over 2 million tonnes of plastic packaging each year. Do we really need to wrap everything in plastic? Can't we find a more sustainable solution? Worst of all, plastic now makes up 80% of marine debris, meaning the ocean creatures we love, like turtles, sharks and fish, are now in danger of ingesting or getting caught up in our plastic waste.
In fact, during the pandemic, when billions of people were quarantined and businesses and schools closed, travel practically came to a halt, significantly reducing the carbon dioxide emissions. Smog, which is a type of air pollution, practically disappeared. In fact, 2020 is on track to see the largest year global decline ever in emissions.
But in the long run, that won't really make a lasting difference. Permafrost is areas in the North and South Pole which are permanently frozen. And the great thing about it is that it carries huge amounts of methane, which is great because methane contributes to global warming about 80 times as much as carbon dioxide. So it's really great for us to keep it in the ground. However, with rising temperatures, both the permafrost and the Arctic ice are melting, releasing the methane and contributing more to global warming, contributing more to permafrost melt. On top of that, the North and South Pole are really important regions for reflecting away the sunlight. We all know that warming is the issue and white things reflect more than dark things. So as the sun comes in, snow and ice is really helpful in that it reflects the light back up into space and we don't have to worry about it. And when that melts and leaves dark areas underneath, which then become forests that are covering grassland, that then absorbs more heat, contributing more to global warming. This is a massive issue across all parts of the world. In the UK, for example, we're going to be expecting warmer, drier summers and colder winters as the jet stream, which goes around the top of the world, comes down and will hit us. So that might mean that crops might not be able to grow. It might mean that we have, more droughts, so certain tree varieties won't be able to survive. It'll really impact our climate. And in more vulnerable parts of the world, North Africa, in Australia, like we saw last year with the bushfires, it can have really serious impacts in a bunch of different ways, which can threaten not only livelihoods, but literally human life.
But why should we be concerned about these things in Shropshire? Everything's fine here, right? But who remembers all the images of flooded towns and villages like Ironbridge and Shrewsbury over the last 2 winters?
All these distressing images can be overwhelming. They might leave you feeling quite powerless. After all, if the world's governments can't sort these problems out, what can you do about it?
The answer to that is lots of things. There is so much we can do here in Shropshire, and you, the future decision makers of this part of the world, you have so much more power than you think. It's just a matter of choice.
We'd like to ask you to consider increasing the amount of sustainable choices you make in your day-to-day lives. You see, it's not about giving things up, it's about changing things up. And young people are good at that, right?
So why is it important to make sustainable choices when we are buying things? Everything we buy, whether it's to eat, to use lots, or to use once and throw away, has a backstory. In order to produce what we buy, Earth's resources are often being used with no chance of replacing them.
For example, think about your average hamburger. We don't always remember, as we enjoy our fast food, the huge areas of rainforest that are cut down to build the cattle ranches to provide us with beef. Deforestation leads directly to climate change and can also destroy the habitats of many of the animals that live there. Unfortunately, even British beef isn't much better for the environment. Just 1 kilo of British beef results in the same amount of greenhouse gases being released as a passenger flight from London to New York.
But there are choices available. Greggs, the fast food chain, made headlines in 2019 when it launched its first vegan sausage roll. It was so popular that Greggs ran out almost immediately. Do you manage to try one? What about the vegan toasty from Costa or the Tastes Like Chicken sub from Subway? More people than ever are choosing to follow a flexitarian diet and reduce the amount of meat they eat. They have meat-free Fridays or meatless Mondays. Rather than giving things up, they're changing things up.
How else could you start to change things up? Do you wish you could walk or cycle to school? What's stopping you? Not enough bike racks? Don't feel safe? Let us know so we can ask for a change. Would you love to get the bus to meet your mates but it's too expensive or inconvenient? Let's talk about that and see what can be done.
Do you bring your own lunch or snacks to school? How do you carry them? How much packaging do you throw away every day? Can you make your own lunch and bring it in reusable wrapping and avoid using straws and plastic packaging? What about your school canteen? What choices do you have there to avoid single-use packaging? Do you choose the hot meal, or do you grab a pre-wrapped sandwich?
What about when you go shopping? The co-op removed all the plastic from its Easter eggs this year. Did you choose their eggs? What about Christmas? How sustainable were your Christmas choices?
Luckily, being sustainable is getting easier and easier. We've all heard about Depop, Vinted, there's zero waste shops popping up everywhere. There's one in the Darwin Centre in Shrewsbury. There's heaps of advice and tips online, and Shrewsbury is chock-a-block full of charity shops. But on a serious note, there are two things you can do when you're making purchase decisions that can help you be more sustainable. Firstly is think. Be a conscious consumer. Where did this product come from? How was it made? Was it contributing to environmental degradation? Was it hurting people who made it? Or was it helping the environment or having the lowest impact it possibly could? Second of all, question. It's really hard these days to tell what's greenwashing and what's actually sustainable. And that's why getting your eye in and being able to read the packaging and actually understand what's behind it is really useful. A picture of a happy cow in front of the mountains doesn't really say that it's ethical milk. But being able to look for signs like organic, saying that there's no artificial chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers being used, that's real. Fair trade, I'm sure we all know about that. Make sure that the people making it are treated fairly and given a living wage. Signs like MSC for fishing shows that fishes are caught sustainably, not out of season and following quotas. Things like that can really help you be able to tell what is actually sustainable and what is just greenwashing to make you want to buy it. And that is one of the biggest things you can do as a consumer to make sure that you are sending the right message to the companies saying we want sustainable, ethical products.
We all know that these things will affect us in our lifetime, and a lot of us feel there's nothing we can do to stop it. A lot of us feel that as young people there's not much we can individually do, but there's so much and every little bit helps. Living a sustainable lifestyle doesn't mean giving things up, it's about changing things up.
We want to hear from you. What sustainable choices are you already making? What sustainable choices would you like to make but can't? What is stopping you from making those choices? How might those barriers be removed so that you can choose to live more sustainably?